Welcome back to my channel, guys. My name is Raggy and it's October. That means it's Halloween, so pull out your candy corn, get your dollar store spiderwebs, and brace yourself. Because you know what this means? It's time for the obligatory spooky episode. So today, I want to crack open a can of worms on a pair of films I have a bit of an issue with. In keeping with the spooky theme today, let's talk about some horror. Or, more specifically, It. It is a film and series reboot of the TV miniseries from the very early 90s set in the town of Derry, based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. I'm gonna go right on ahead and say I haven't read the novel, because I don't have a million spare hours to chip away at the mountain of reading that is just about any of the works of Stephen King. But I'm sure it's good. Anyways, that's not what we're actually talking about today. And this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen It Chapters 1 and 2, and you want to save the surprises for yourself, then please add this video to your watch later list and come back another time. You have been warned. Now, about this reboot, it's not brilliant. The best part of this entire movie, both of them, because they made it into two, and that's perfectly understandable. Remember the aforementioned mountain of reading. The best part of these two movies is how they were marketed. Intelligent use of social media and memorable visuals were instrumental in the film's success. For a while, it felt like you couldn't look in any direction without seeing some reference to the movie, and this was before it was even released. Better movies have fared worse due to a lack of proper marketing, and that's just the way it goes in Hollywood, I guess. Beyond that, however, the films are kind of a letdown for me personally. I may not have read the novel, but I did watch the entire miniseries in a single night. It took like 6 hours. It was alright. I'll say this, that the reboot is a satisfactory recreation of something otherwise old and dated, and in need of some love and attention. The general plot and characters don't really diverge too far at all from the miniseries, so if you're watching the film to re-experience it, then you won't complain about how they ruined your favorite horror series. And if you're completely new to it, then it'll take you halfway through the movie before you really start following what's actually happening in this train wreck of a horror experience. My big gripe with it is it paints itself as this unique horror experience. Like, there's never been anything even similar. But it's not even scary. And I'm no hero. Movies like AI scare me. Benign, fun movies like The Mummy scared me. It did everything it could to make sure I wouldn't get scared. The clown, Pennywise, who was meant to be the literal incarnation of fear itself, I only wish there had been more of him. I only ever felt like I was really enjoying the movie when he was on screen. But it wasn't for some masochistic fear rush. He's just a very amusing character to watch. The way he talks, the way he moves, the random crap he does. Like, just look at him dancing here. Like, This was supposed to be scary. Maybe it was meant to be, but I have to wonder if that was actually intended at all. The first movie has a runtime of 2 hours and 15 minutes, but spends literally the first 50 minutes introducing characters and setting the scene. And I mean, there's a lot of characters, so I get it. There's only so much you can do when you're trying to stay true to the source material, but you're also translating a miniseries into a movie. But if we approach the movie from the perspective of anyone unfamiliar with the franchise, it's a big ask to sit through that much exposition. There's so much time spent building the relationships, the love triangles, and the conflicts, and every character has their own personal thing going on, so it becomes difficult to keep up. During all of this exposition, we see our 7 main characters, Richie, Eddie, Bill, Stanley, Ben, Mike, and Beverly, all kids at the time, experience paranormal activity that seems to be tailored to their unique fears and phobias. Over the course of the film, they learn of each other's experiences and realize that something in Derry is preying on them, and likely a bunch of other kids as well. Here's my question to you. We know that what's preying on the kids is Pennywise, and we know he is supposed to be an allegory for fear itself. So why am I sitting here hoping he shows up and does something terrifying, rather than dreading that idea? Keep in mind, I'm legitimately a coward when it comes to scary movies, but I didn't flinch once throughout this entire experience. Every time Pennywise makes an appearance, it's predictable. There was not a single moment in either of the two movies where he surprised, let alone scared me. Objectively speaking, the clown ticks all the boxes for what should make a character absolutely terrifying. from his uncanny appearance to more intangible qualities like the fact he can seem to occupy multiple spaces at once. There are a lot of scenes that I feel had the potential to be a lot more frightening, but it was so painfully obvious that something was going to happen, I just couldn't get to that feeling of uneasiness. Like the scene where Beverly visits her childhood home and meets the old lady. Perhaps this late in the two films, we had already caught on that something paranormal was going to happen literally any time the main characters split up. But as soon as I saw the old lady, I just knew something about her was going to go wrong. I didn't know if she was going to split open and Pennywise was going to jump out, or if she was going to vomit hornets or something, but I knew something was going to happen, and I think that's where a lot of the problems come from. If you really want to break things down, Pennywise is just an allegory for fear, and the movies are about conquering fear by facing it. His one true weakness is being confronted, and doing so causes him to weaken and retreat. In part, this message goes to show that your fears are only able to hurt you if you give them the power to do so. And the only people we see actually die in these movies are those who have given in to their fear or lack the emotional maturity to regulate their emotions. And this explains away why he typically goes after children. But this creates a dynamic in which most of what we see happen only happens to the main characters in their heads. They're not actually being covered in blood. They're not really being chased by monsters or watching each other die. They're only experiencing these events as intensely as their fear allows them to. And yes, if they give in to their fear completely, then these imaginary threats do become real. But after the first few encounters with Pennywise, you realize the kids are coming out of them completely unscathed. It breeds an expectation that whatever we see happen is not going to have a lasting effect. And they drive this point home very early in the movies. We see Mike haunted by visuals of fire and burnt limbs that remind him of his parents dying in a house fire, which he witnessed. But before the scene is over, it becomes apparent that what he's seeing isn't really there. We also get to see Ben chased by the figure of a headless boy in the catacombs of the school library, after reading about a related tragedy that happened in Derry many years ago. But just like with Mike, it becomes clear that what he sees isn't really there. And while this may be scary in a shocking or visual sense, the pattern teaches the viewer that whatever our main characters see probably isn't going to hurt them. I'll admit that this actually works really well since the theme of the movie is conquering fear, but ironically it puts us in a position to feel quite safe while watching it. See, people aren't stupid. And while it may not be what we directly think about while watching the movie, we still catch on and figure out that the message of the film is that you have nothing to fear but fear itself. It's a pretty old adage, we've all heard it. But we catch on faster than the main characters do, and it becomes a matter of waiting for them to figure it out as well, while in the meantime we watch them scream and shiver and cry, knowing full well that they're gonna be just fine. Except Eddie. It is a horror experience in only the most basic fashion. Shocking visuals and dark themes are apparently all it takes to be rated thusly. But you certainly couldn't rate these movies as comedy or romance, even though these elements are present as well. So I get it. I'm not disputing whether or not it should be considered a horror film. It obviously is, but surrounding this franchise is a consensus that it demonstrates a whole new standard for the horror genre. And I feel that is thanks more to how the movies were promoted, rather than any substance within. It's kind of like how McDonald's is famed for having the most famous fries in the world. All of the promotional material insists that this is the golden standard for French fries. They have the evidence and the numbers to prove it. They've sold more fries than anyone else in the world. But we all know what McDonald's fries are actually like. But unlike McDonald's fries, I would say that the It movies are at least worth trying. You could even say they're your favorite movies, and I'd just have to respect that choice. If you say they were your favorite horror movies, on the other hand, well, that's a different story. To the credit of these movies, I will say it is refreshing to watch what is for all intents and purposes horror, but with a cohesive plot that is actually quite engaging. Too many horror films go the other way and rely exclusively on gore and senseless killing, with no real storytelling present at all. If you prefer that your horror films offer you something to think about other than when the next jump scare is going to happen, then It is probably going to be a very enjoyable movie for you, albeit at the cost of actual horror. Some people do just want to be taken on a spooky ride through what is obviously a bunch of props and costumed performers, and that's okay. At the end of the day, my only real issue with these movies is how they are presented as something much scarier than they actually are. While some of the scenes are quite shocking, I would say they still pale drastically compared to the likes of Scream or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and these movies also had decent plots. I would personally describe it as a horror film the whole family can enjoy. I'm not actually suggesting you watch this movie with your children, but if I had to pick one, this would be it. The plot of this movie is something that can be enjoyed with or without the attached shock value, and it conditions the watcher to feel weirdly safe after not very much time at all. It feels like the director intended to create a safe feeling around the idea of Pennywise the Clown, that the viewer might be more likely to watch the sequel, buy the merch, or recommend it to their friends. The marketable face of Pennywise presented to you, the viewer, in an almost safe for all ages kind of light, without actually saying so. And if that's the case, then it's kind of brilliant, really. It's cool to enjoy it because it's trending as the scariest movie of all time, but it's easy to swallow because it's presented like a PG-13 blockbuster. Anyways, these have been my thoughts on It Chapters 1 and 2. As far as reboots and recreations go, I would say these movies are fine and totally worth your time, despite whatever shortcomings they may have. It doesn't change the fact that they were very enjoyable to watch. If you're looking for bone-chilling terror, I would advise you to look elsewhere, though. If you have any thoughts of your own about these movies, whether you liked them or not so much, please comment down below, and feel free to make suggestions about subjects you'd like to see discussed on this channel as well, whether it be movies, games, anime, whatever. As always, thank you so very much for watching today's video. I really enjoyed making this one, and it feels good to finally get my thoughts about these movies out there. If you enjoyed today's content, then please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps me to get seen and grow this small channel into something I can be really proud of. Your every like, comment, and sub means the world to me, and any help you can offer is deeply appreciated. If you find you can't wait for more content like this, then consider hitting the bell icon, and that way you'll get instant updates anytime there's a new upload. If you liked hearing my breakdown of why these movies aren't really scary, then you may enjoy this video I made recently about Tokyo Ghoul. It's pretty good. Click the thumbnail to go and see, or otherwise just hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again very much for watching. Happy Halloween!